Hello and welcome, my name is Ansu. If you're new here, consider subscribing down below. I realized something very quickly when I was looking over my videos, and it is the fact that I didn't film a January wrap-up, which is kind of weird. So I thought today we would sit down and just chat about all the books that I read in January. I had a pretty successful month in January. I read a bunch of books. I think I read around 9 books if I'm not wrong, and that's like pretty amazing for a person like me who tends to not read a lot or reads a lot slower, I guess. Pretty happy about every single one of the books that I ended up reading, so let's just chat about all of the ones that I finished. Okay, so I started off the month with an early arc that I got from HarperCollins, and that is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. This one is just exactly what it sounds like. Everybody in this main character's family has killed someone. We're seeing things from the perspective of Ernest Cunningham, and he goes through every single person in his life. His mom, his stepdad, his dad, his brothers, his cousins, whatever. Like all these people that are there, he's going through every single person's head, I guess, and just saying things the way that he thinks is true. Ernest is being seeked out by his brother one day because he accidentally ends up murdering someone, and Ernest is kind of trying to cover up this murder, but he can't, and he ends up confessing to the court that his brother is a killer, and his brother ends up going to jail. Fast forward a few years, he's coming out of jail, and so everyone's having this huge party to like welcome him back, and they're in this like very remote ski resort, and everybody is there, and obviously everyone's like, oh, you know, this is all your fault, Ernest, you know, you suck, you're a terrible person, you should have stuck up for your family, blah 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 blah. And obviously Ernest is like, yeah, I know that, but also like I wanted to stand up for the truth, that's what I did, and I thought that was right. And he is just sticking by what he did, and he's very scared that his brother's coming back, and he's almost afraid for his life. In the beginning of this novel, like before the chapters even start, the author of the book, so Ernest, kind of comes out and he's telling you, hey, this is the book that I'm writing, and these are the pages where all these murders are going to happen, and we're going to talk about them. Every single person's perspective, or like every single person's lens we're seeing from, is like my perspective and what I think happened or what I saw happen. Anything that happened at that point in time, and that's what he thinks is true, is what he's writing. That's it. So he's not lying technically, and that's what it is. So it's kind of like an reliable narrator, and it's very interesting, honestly. And I've heard some reviews saying that they didn't like this book because of the way the narration was occurring, but I personally really enjoyed the way that the author came out of the book and he's like talking to you as the reader, and I thought that was just very interesting. Like the ending of this book was like a little meh. I mean, I kind of saw it coming to an extent, and it felt like very much a Bollywood movie, so to me it was enjoyable. It was pretty good. I think I give this 3 or 3.5 stars. How much should I give it? I give it 4 stars actually. Oh, okay. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a great book. I had a good time reading. Next up, I was very excited for this next book, and I read Carrie Soto is Back by Jenkins Reid. If you didn't know, I've read almost probably all of her books. Not really. I've read like 4 books of Jenkins Reid, and I absolutely adored every single one of them. And of late, especially like Malibu Rising and this one, I have really enjoyed the way the story is kind of portrayed. This one follows around Carrie Soto, who is a tennis player, and we're in like the 1950s, and she's just becoming this incredible athlete. So think like Serena Williams of this age. That's what Carrie Soto was. She is also Hispanic. Her father is like her trainer, and she's going through this vigorous training sessions, but she's very happy about going through it. She wants to be the best. That's all she has been like kind of drilled into her, and she's like, I have to be the best. If I'm not the best, I don't know what I am. And she's really trying her hardest to get to be the best. A few years down the road, fame kind of gets to her, and she goes through this whole process, and she ends up getting like, I forget, like 20 or 30 Grand Slams. So, like, she's very accomplished and talented. In the present day, we have this new person, this new and upcoming tennis player who's going to beat her world record of Grand Slams gotten, and obviously Carrie Soto is like, I cannot lose my position, I have to fight again, and she goes back into the tennis court and is going back into competition. It is intense because she's also in her 30s. She's pretty old considering she's an athlete. Her body does not work the same way anymore. It's so interesting to see all of that, and I had such a good time reading it. I kind of got into this whole like Serena Williams kind of a situation. I was just like watching all these amazing tennis players, and I had such a good time. It was so good. I really enjoyed this book. There's also like this lovely familial aspect in it, a cute romance. It's beautiful. I really enjoyed this book. 5 out of 5. Next up, I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This one took me a freakishly long time to get into. I think the first half of this book was fairly boring to me. I couldn't get into any of the characters. I did not care about the story. Nothing. Like, it did not do anything for me. So we are in this retirement home with a bunch of old people who are kind of in this club that is discussing like murders that had occurred, and they're trying to like solve these mysteries. They're pretty much a very close-knit group of people. One day there's this murder that happens very close to their retirement home, and they're trying to figure out why this person got murdered, who killed them, all that kind of stuff. And things go on from there, and they're trying to solve this murder. Honestly, did not care about the characters at all until at least the very latter end. Even so, like, I did not care. I did not care about any of these people. I just wanted to move on and just finish reading it. That's really all. I just didn't really enjoy it as much as I would have liked to, and I ended up giving this like 3 stars. It was fine, but I didn't really care about it too much. Next up, I got another early copy from NetGalley. This was Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, which is the 3rd book of the Finlay Donovan series by Elle Cosimano. I was very much looking forward to this book, and obviously I was like very excited to get it. I ended up giving this 4 stars. Hear me out. Follows around this woman named Finlay Donovan, who is a fiction writer. So she writes about these mystery thrillers, and one day she was like talking to her agent in like a public setting, and she was just saying to her like how she was going to end her specific novel that she was working on right now. Someone else overhears her and thinks that she's a contract killer and ends up hiring her accidentally. Finlay gets into this position of hiding a dead body. So everything is very intense because she has 2 kids. She's trying to be a good single mother and trying to take care of these kids. At the same time, she also has like a sidekick character that's kind of with her now, her like babysitter, and it's very interesting. It's just really fun. It's a cozy mystery. It's really good. But here's the thing, it kind of got very repetitive. Like, everything that kind of happens to Finlay right now is just like ridiculous at this point. It cannot keep happening all the time. Like, everything is like a weird coincidence, and I'm just like, how is this happening to you like all the time? It's just a little frustrating after some point. Not the biggest fan of it. But yeah, this is still going on. She at least finds the person that she wants to truly be with. That's a good thing. Like, nothing else truly happens other than more ridiculousness, and that's it. It's just the same stuff that happens in the first 2 books that's kind of continuing on into this, the same ridiculous level. It was enjoyable for sure, and I still gave it 4 stars, but yeah, it is very repetitive at this point. Next up, I read a nonfiction, and this one was a little harrowing to read. It was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I've never seen the works of this author properly. I've seen like clips and pieces of iCarly, and when she said she's not going to act in iCarly, I was just like, why? It's a funny show. It's like pretty good, right? And then I watched a few clips of her explaining why she's not in the show, in the new renewed show, I guess. And also I read this book and it broke me. Like, I understand why she does not want to act ever again. Like, seriously, it's so traumatizing. There's so many trigger warnings for this book, but especially physical and mental abuse, a lot of eating disorders as well. So definitely check out the trigger warnings for this. I'm not too sure if there's stuff that I'm missing. I'm definitely missing a lot, but throughout the story, she's talking about how she got forced into acting, and how she's helping with her family's troubles, money problems, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's so intense, the amount of pressure that she was under to take care of her family, to make sure that her mother was happy, and her mom just being incredibly abusive of her. It is so sad to read. And also it gets to a point where she's like 16 and her mother's still showering her. Like, it's fucked up. Honestly, I'm not even kidding. It's so difficult to read, but it is something that I think if you can, you should read. It was beautifully written. I also listened to an audiobook of it while I was reading it, and Jennette really, it brings so much emotion into the book, and it just hurts a lot more when you hear it that way, and it's incredible. Really sad. I don't know if I should be rating this, but it was a full 5 stars. It shouldn't be rated, I guess, but like, oh man, it was depressing as hell. The next one I read because I was in this huge Taylor Jenkins Reid mood, and I went to her backlist and I read One True Loves by her. This one follows around Emma Blair in her 20s. She is with her high school sweetheart Jesse, and they have this incredibly beautiful life together. They're traveling the world. They're so happy together. They're like the perfect couple. One day Jesse goes on this solo trip somewhere, and he's on the helicopter, and something happens and the helicopter goes missing. So he's pronounced dead, and Emma is dealing with this grief, this immense grief, and she does not know what to do with her life. And it was also just their first wedding anniversary when this all happened, and she ends up going back to her hometown with her parents, and she kind of brings up her life again in her hometown in Massachusetts, and the differences that happen to her after that. She kind of finds another person to be with, another one of her best friends from high school, this guy named Sam. They have this really nice connection together, and they end up rekindling their friendship, and then slowly it turns into a romance. Now they are engaged to get married, and lo and behold, we hear that Jesse is not dead. So 2 of her loves are actually alive and kicking, and she has to figure out who she has to be with and who she wants to be with, and it's like a difficult choice for her, and she's trying to figure things out for herself. And it's a really good story. Some parts of it I'm just like, it probably will never happen, but still, you know, just seeing that you don't have just one person in your life, it was just, oh, that was beautiful. I cried a lot. It was nice. I liked it. It was a pretty good book. I gave it 4 stars. Then I got back into a kick for Mr. Thor's, and I ended up reading Nothing More to Tell by Canon and McManus. 4 years ago, Bryn, our main character, leaves her school St. Ambrose to go somewhere else after the death of her favorite teacher. We popular kids kind of come across his dead body in the forest, and nobody really knows what happened to him, how he died, why he died, none of that. So we're trying to figure out what happened once Bryn comes back into St. Ambrose after 4 years. She goes into this like newspaper place, murder mystery newspaper thingy. I don't know what it was. She goes there anyway. She starts to have like an internship. She's working there, and one of the cases that she brings up is this teacher's death, and she wants to like figure out what happened to him. And a lot of dark secrets that should not have come out end up coming out. And also on the flip side, we have another main character. Trip was actually Bryn's ex-best friend, and for some reason they end up having a fallout, and now they're not in a talking basis, so they kind of rekindle their friendship sort of, and they're trying to figure things out, how this teacher died and all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty interesting. It was a really intense story, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I give it like 4 stars as well. I've read a few books by Carrie and McManus, and that's why I was just like, yes, I had a pretty good time. I had a lot of fun reading this one. Right after that, I ended up finishing Spy X Family Volume 2. This is so cute. It's really funny. If you haven't read this manga series, it is so adorable. We have these 3 characters that we're kind of following around. We have this little girl named Anya who was in an orphanage in the beginning. She has, I think it's telepathy. Like she can read people's minds. Is that what it is? I don't know. And we have this man who is a spy, and his mission right now is to infiltrate the school, and to do so he needs to have a kid and a wife and be like the perfect family to get into the school, and he has to basically kill someone inside there. It's really intense. And so he ends up adopting Anya, this little girl, and also he ends up finding a wife. Unbeknownst to him, she is an assassin, like a slick assassin, and none of them know like each other's true powers other than Anya. Obviously she can read other people's minds, so she knows everything, but she's also like a little cute dumb child. Honestly, she's really stupid, but she's so adorable. I love her. She's so cute. And yeah, it's just really nice artwork. It's a really fun story. And also, like, I watched the first few episodes of the TV show, and it's exactly the same as the manga. So if you want to watch the first 10 or 15 episodes of the first season, it's the first 2 books essentially. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I'll continue reading the story. I had a good time with it. Yeah, the final book I ended up reading in January was Two Can Keep a Secret by Carrie and McManus as well. And this one follows around Elle, who ends up going to a small town in America because her mother is going into like, was it a psych ward, I think, something like that, to get herself fixed. mixed up. So she's going with her twin to this really small town where her mother's twin aunt had actually gone missing at the age of 17, and we've never heard about what happened to her. And now Ellery and her twin are going into this new school in the small town, and they're learning so many different secrets that their mother kind of kept away from them all this time, and they're living with their grandmother at that time. During the season of like homecoming, it is kind of usually the homecoming queens or whatever are somehow murdered brutally, and it is incredibly intense, and we're following around a couple of main characters trying to figure out who the real killer is. And yeah, it was really intense, especially the last few chapters. I was blown away. I really enjoyed it. And maybe it's not like the best twist for some people, but it was like fucked up enough for me that I was like, damn, that was so good. And I had a good time reading it. I also gave this like 4 stars. My heart went pitter-patter the whole time, but I could not deal with it. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. So those are all the 9 books I ended up reading in January. I had talked about most of these, I think, in one of my vlogs I had done earlier. I will leave it linked down below and also in the cards for you to check it out if you're interested in knowing like more in-depth thought. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to be notified every single time I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all next time with another one. Until then, I'll talk to you all in the comments. Bye!